Hey everyone, I am so glad you could join us today. I'm Miss Jyoti, and welcome back if you've been here before, but if you haven't, welcome to Get Your Play Online. So today, as our normal science segment, we are going to be doing bubbly fires. So now you probably have noticed my t-shirt and it says, the element of confusion. I wish it was an element. Sadly, it's not a real element, but that's okay. That's a debate for another time. So, we are going to make bubbly fires today, as I mentioned. But before we do that, I would love to talk a little bit more about firefighters. And I have some fun facts for y'all. So, this cute little sticker that I just printed. But let's go ahead and, ooh, that one really wants to come out. So, we're going to start reading that one first. So, did you know that firefighters' uniforms can withstand up to 22,000 degrees Fahrenheit? Very interesting. A firefighter wears up to somewhere in between 5 to 30 kilograms on their body, which translates to about 11 to 60 pounds, which is a lot. I can't imagine carrying myself. They carry so much. Let's see what else we got in here. We have another fun fact that says that firefighters can put their uniforms on in seconds. They can hop into their boots and put their pants on within a second, grab a jacket in the next, and grab their helmet and get into their fire engine. That is interesting. I mean, it makes sense because every second counts. So, gotta do what they gotta do, but we're so grateful that they do that for us. And hoses and axes are the most commonly used equipment for firefighters. Very interesting. I think a hose was something that we probably all expected because they are trying to put out fires. But axes also make sense because sometimes they have things that are in their way that they need to cut through to be able to rescue people. So those were all of our fun facts today about firefighters, but let's go ahead and get started with our activity. So what are you going to need for today? You are going to need some baking soda. You won't need a whole container. All you really need is about 1 to 2 tablespoons. So before you go ahead and grab this, make sure you ask your parents that it's okay. You will need some vinegar. This is the kind that I have. Again, you won't need this much. You really will need about like half-ish of a cup. But that also depends on what size of a cup that you're using. So I have a few disposable cups out. Pretty much any size would work. It depends on how big of a bubbly fire you want to make. For this activity, I do recommend having a parent around to help you because we don't want to be making a mess. Another thing is you could use food coloring if you would like. It's completely optional. But I'm going to use some today just to make this activity a little bit more fun and colorful so that you can actually see the bubbly fire. And lastly, I have some paper towels here just to make sure we don't make a mess. And I've laid out this little plastic container situation so that I don't spill anything on the table. And I am joining you guys. I didn't show you this earlier, but I am joining you from my lovely backyard. So I hope that wherever you are enjoying the weather. So yeah, I definitely am. So here we go. Let's go ahead and get started. So I have 3 separate cups out. All you really need is 1. But the reason that I have 3 out is because we are going to be experimenting. So I'm going to try using different amounts of baking soda and putting different food colors so we can see how different the reaction is. And we are so excited to get started. So I am going to start with this little cup over here. I'm going to start by putting some yellow food coloring in it, really just 1 drop. This is optional, you don't have to do this. So if you are planning on not using food coloring, you can just hang tight for 1 second while I put a drop of yellow, which kind of almost looks like orange when I put it in here, food coloring. And then we are going to put some baking soda. I have my little measuring cups here. You don't need one, but I just thought if we were doing this experiment, it just made more sense to measure out how much we put and how different it was and what kind of a reaction we got. So I am going to use 1 teaspoon of baking soda for this first cup right here, the smaller one. Let me try pouring it out here before I already spilling, but that's alright. It's all in the container. Okay, there we go. So I have measured out 1 teaspoon, and I'm going to put it in my small cup. And I'm going to put down my measuring cups, and I'm going to take some vinegar and pour it in the small cup. What do you think, friends, is going to happen? Yeah, if you guessed that we are going to have a reaction something similar to that of a volcano, you are absolutely correct. So that's what it looks like. It's a little hard to see with the white cups and everything, but let me see if that helps. Do you see the little bubbles happening in there in that cup? So I will describe what is going on in there. So there's a little bit of yellow that we can see inside from the yellow food coloring, and we got bubbles going, and we have some sort of liquid forming at the bottom of the bubbles. So essentially what's happening in this reaction is when an acid, which in this case is vinegar for us, and a base, which is baking soda, when they mix together, they are forming this chemical reaction, which is resulting in water being formed. So we have this like yellowish water at the bottom of the cup, and on top of it we saw that there were some bubbles. So those bubbles were it's like bubbles kind of like in carbonated drinks. It's like, for instance, like Coke or Sprite, but this is something you definitely don't want to drink, so please don't be drinking this. But that's similar to the kinds of bubbles that we saw in there. So one reason why I picked to do bubbly fires today is because when fires happen, whether that's in a house or a forest fire or whatever kind of fire happens, that firefighters very graciously help put out, it happens because some sort of chemical reaction has happened. And fire needs oxygen to keep burning. So there's lots of oxygen in the air. And as long as there's air available, the fire will keep burning. So the creation of fire is a chemical reaction, which is why we are creating our own bubbly fires. So now let's try doing that activity again, except we used yellow food coloring and we used a smaller cup, which meant less baking soda and less vinegar. But this time we're going to try it again with some red food coloring and some more baking soda and some more vinegar, and we are going to see what happens. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my red food coloring. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing, put 1 to 2 drops. Again, this is optional, you don't have to do it. But this time, instead of 1 teaspoon, we are going to go with 1 tablespoon. I'm going to pour out some baking soda. It's a little struggle to do it from this shaped bottle, but that's all right. Or not bottle, my bad. That is definitely a box. Now that we have 1 tablespoon, Fly wants to get in on the action, we are going to put that in our bigger cup. I'm going to grab my vinegar and start pouring it in this bigger cup. And we are going to see what happens. Oh my gosh, I wish I could show you this, friends. Look at that. Look at that. It is just oozing out of here. So we had a lot more baking soda this time, and we had quite the reaction, and we still have all these bubbles going here. Let me see if I can show y'all a better view of what is going on. Do you hear all those bubbles just making all that noise? Because this chemical reaction is happening right in front of you. It is quite interesting. So, as we can see, when we used more baking soda, we had a much bigger reaction. So this was bubbly fires for y'all, but before we go, I am going to do this one more time in this clear glass that I have, because I know it's kind of hard to see in these cups, especially because they're both pretty opaque. And if you joined us last class, you know what opaque means. It means that light cannot pass through it, which means it's sometimes hard to see through an object. So now we are just going to push these cups to the side of my little tray that I have going here, and I'm going to bring in my clear cup. Since it is a slightly smaller cup, I am going to use half a teaspoon of baking soda. I'm about to go grab some, and we are going to do this thing one more time. Had a little spill going here, but that is all right, friends. That's why we have a little tray, so we're not making a mess. I am going to put my 1/4, or sorry, 1/2 teaspoon right in the cup. Ooh, what color do we want? Do we want yellow or red? Or you know what? Let's go a little different. I have a few more food coloring right here. Do you want green or blue? If you have an opinion, go ahead and share it in the comment section. I'm going to wait a few seconds while y'all pick whether we want green or blue food coloring for this last time that we're doing this activity. In the meantime, I am going to go ahead and grab my vinegar. Let's not have things fly away today. Okay, we are going to go ahead with green. Woo, a lot of flies. Let's do that. 1 drop. Ooh, 2, I guess. And ooh, let's get a better view of that. So as you can see, this cup is shaped slightly differently. It is called a champagne glass. So we have all the baking soda that's gone all the way to the bottom here, but that is no problemo. It will be more fun to see this activity unfolding. So this time I want y'all to focus more right here on this little area to see what really happens when we pour in some vinegar. So I'm just going to slowly pour some vinegar in this cup, and we are about to see some bubbly green fire this time. Ooh, look at that. I'm going to let it settle a little bit before I pour a little bit more. Look at all those bubbles. And since the cup is shaped this way, baking soda is taking a little bit longer to make a bigger reaction, which is kind of fun for us to see how these green bubbles are just oozing out from this chemical reaction that has just happened. Here, let's see how it's like slowly seeping and getting closer and closer to all the solid white baking powder, or baking soda, my bad, that we have. Let's see. We're going to pour a teeny bit more and see what happens. Look at that. Look at all those reactions happening. Again, I know it looks kind of appetizing, but please make sure that you are not drinking this. We're going to give it a few more seconds to see what happens to the bottom of this cup. Lovely. Well, I am so glad that y'all could join me today in making bubbly fires, and I hope that you enjoyed all of our little fun facts about the fire department and firefighters. So, as this week's theme was community superheroes and superheroes in general, don't forget to thank those in your community who are helping you out and just making it a better place to be. And lastly, don't forget to tune in to the other activities that we have remaining for today. We have one at 3 o'clock and one at 5 p.m. And yeah, I hope y'all have a lovely weekend. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.